Alright folks, so let me show you a little bit more about how the array list actually does what it does. And up here I have listed the methods that the array list uses and has. And so actually each of these should have a parentheses behind it except for this one. And I want you to get used to the idea here that there are methods and parameters, or methods and fields, for each data type. So an array list comes with some methods, and later on we'll see that you can construct your own objects with their own methods and their own fields and things like that. But right now we're sort of just using the ones that processing has built into it naturally. And ArrayList has this method called add. And what add does is obviously sticks a new number or a new object or whatever into your array list. Get allows you to actually access that. So you say get and then you put in a number like get the fifth one. If you say remove, it's exactly the same thing. If I say dots.remove, I can get rid of the fifth one. And the size just tells me how many things are currently in my array list. And let me show you how this works to make our little dot art popping game. So again, I create this array list here. And notice that we don't really tell the array list what thing is going to be in it. This right here is just an arbitrary name. This has no value. The computer has no idea what dots actually means. And we're going to skip over a lot of stuff here as I explain, but we're going to go down to where I first used the add function. And so notice here we're in the mouse pressed function. Whoops, just kidding. We're in the mouse pressed function, and that means that whenever I click the mouse, I want it to either put a dot or grab a dot. All of this code right here is designed to discover whether you've grabbed a dot or not, and we'll talk about that later. But most importantly, I have an if statement at the very end. Oh geez. I have an if statement at the very end here that says if I haven't, exclamation point means not, if I have not found a dot, in other words, I'm not clicking on one that already exists, let's add one. And you can see here that I have this code. Dots is the name of my array list, add is the method, and inside of its parentheses I'm going to add a dot. Well, what kind of dot? A new dot. This implies that dot is an object, so dot is a data type. I just as easily could have added an integer or whatever, but this is an array list of dots. And so if we come down here, we have to check out the new object type of dot. And I actually have created a whole separate class that just is my little dot. It's not very fancy, but I needed these dots to do very specific things. I needed to know where the dots were, so I need their x and y coordinate. I need the deepness of their color, and I need to know how big they are. Because remember, we can actually sort of hold on to them too long, and they get too dark, and then they pop. And if I click them, they get bigger. So I need to keep track of all four of these things about my dot. And you might be asking yourself, why are you doing this? This all seems so random. But the process really is kind of simple. I just want to simulate the object that I want, and I want a dot. So I need to just sort of give it variables for all the things I need to keep track of. And then I give it a method. In fact, this is a constructor method. You can notice because it doesn't have anything like void right here or float. It doesn't have that. It's a special method called a constructor. And the constructor makes it when you call new dot. Up here when I said add, you notice here that I called a method, right? And that method is the constructor. This is a very special way of doing things, and you should just get used to it. It's how processing in Java do their work. So when we do it, we say, well, let's set x and y equal to where the mouse is. So you set you put the dot where you clicked, and then we set the deepness to 255, in other words, white, and we're going to set the radius to 25. So every new dot that's made is going to look exactly the same. So even though I'm adding a bunch of new things into my array list here, I'm actually keeping track of them very, very specifically. So if when I add a new dot and I click on one side of the screen, so if I run the program, our array list is being populated actually with these dots that we're creating. But each dot in the array list has this information for itself. And that's the true power of object-oriented programming. I designed the idea of the dot once, and now if I just create a whole bunch of new dots whenever I want them, those dots have specific quantities that are specific to them. So the x of dot 1 is completely independent. So this guy right here. The x of this dot is completely independent of the x of any of these other dots, even though they're really sort of created from the mold of the exact same code. Okay, so in the next video, we'll talk about how we get and remove things from the array list and how we actually print them on the screen.